Don and I have known Dick and Linda for many, many, many years. We went to Haiti in 1983, and Dick, you came in 85? 86. And he was flying the planes, and I tell you, even my kids, with my husband and I today being here and some of our kids being here, Dick and Linda became parts of our family, and he's always been a part of our life in one way or another. Even after we left Haiti and came here, we knew that we'd see Dick and Linda, not only possibly here in our church, but when we get to heaven, we're going to be rejoicing with them. And they've had such an impact, not only on our lives, but on the lives of so many, many missionaries and national pastors in Haiti. And it's because of missionary flights that the missions in Haiti can progress and do things because of what they do for us. Their logo is standing in the gap, but they do a whole lot more than just standing in the gap. So Dick and Linda, we appreciate you totally. And I didn't even pick on you.
I know, we got a hug. This is the way after every flight, when we got ready to get on the airplane, Karen said she had to get paid, and her payment was you had to hug the pilots. So we had her hug. So. Well, it's been a great 38 years for us serving at Missionary Flights. And we've got to know Don and Karen and so many other missionaries. And if you like missions and missionaries, you'd certainly like Missionary Flight, because that's all we do. Our whole life, the whole existence of the ministry is to serve missions. And they need help. Missionaries can't just go. I was in the military. I was in Vietnam, and I worked right on the ramp in the DC-3, C-47s back then. And every day, constantly, cargo planes came in with the supplies we needed, whether it's food or stuff at the BX. We had to buy clothing and shoes and whatever it might be, or it was troops, whatever. And we could not have stayed there and existed without those cargo planes coming in. So that's what MFI is all about. We put the missionaries on the front line like you folks do and around the world, wherever they might be, and then someone's got to help them stay supplied. And Haiti doesn't have a lot of offerings for big box stores or no Walmarts or Sam's or none of those places. And so when they need something, they contact MFI, and we're there to do it. And so Lynn and I have been there since 1986. We grew up in Iowa, graduated high school together, dated in high school. And then she went off to nurses training, and I went to the Air Force. And after all my training and her training, we, before our first base in Georgia, we married and went there for a few months. And then they moved that operation to Kansas. It was Kansas for about the same length of time. I was working on a 4-engine prop plane then. And then I got orders to Vietnam. So I moved her back to Iowa. I went to Vietnam. I've been there about 2 weeks. And she got a letter that says, guess what? We're going to have our first child. And so he was 3.5 months old before I got to see him. But we came back home, had a year left in the Air Force, went to Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, and that's where I learned to fly. I'd only flown in a small plane a couple times before that, but I did fly in the Air Force as far as with my airplane. I'd go to Africa and South America as a crew chief and maintain the plane while it was gone and so forth, so I had flown there, but I wasn't the pilot. And so I got through my commercial rating, came back to Iowa, joined up with my dad in a well drilling business, and for about 12, 13 years, and used my VA to continue my ratings till I got up where I could fly DC-3s, took a type rating in the airplane, and then I used to go down and volunteer at MFI once in a while, and then the Lord began to work on us, so why not go full time? I had all the ratings and A&P mechanics license, and so we had a farm in southern Iowa, we had a new house, we had a good church, our family was all close, we'd all been in that same area for many years, and the Lord called us to MFI. Our call was very strong, we knew we had to go, so we sold the farm, sold the new house, left our good church, a Bible church there in southern Iowa. We did take the 4 kids with us, by the way. We decided we better not leave them in Iowa. And that worked out well too. Our oldest son had just graduated from high school. The others are still in school. They all went down and finished up schooling there. And then we have now 15 grandkids, 4 greats, and 1 on the way. So see the blessings of serving the Lord. I'm sure you get blessings that same way too. But it's been an honor and privilege to serve missions. We at MFI are dedicated to that cause. I've often told the missionaries, when I was serving as president for 20-some years, all the missionaries that I know that wanted it or had it or could have it had my cell phone number. 24 hours a day they could call. And it happened. Middle of the nights, I'd get phone calls. Somebody got sick. There's an emergency. Someone got shot. I was getting the airplane loaded one morning. I wasn't flying, but I went in to see it off and we always loaded the last minute cold stuff, frozen food or whatever it was going the morning just before the airplane took off, and I was there doing that. And I got a call of a lady a Haitian man's wife who was also a doctor. They were both doctors, and got shot 5 times. And didn't know if she was going to live or not. And so basically we kept communication while the airplane was on its way down there, doing its normal day's work. And they finally, about noon, said, she's still alive, would you come and get her? So we went over to Port-au-Prince, picked her up, brought her out, and that was Dr. Gee's wife, Karen. And so she survived, and ever since then, whenever I'd see Dr. Gee, or if I was in the same community with him, he would tell the story. He says, MFI saved her life. So we've done all those things. Just amazing what you can do with a few dedicated missionary pilots and mechanics and personnel and some World War II airplanes. That's what they are. DC-3s are built in all of our airplanes are 80 years old or older. I'm not even quite that old, but getting there. And yet we've modified them and updated them. We have one right now in Ohio being finished up. It should be soon. It's been flying, test flying, done that. We're waiting on some data paperwork to make it so that we can use it for missions. And they'll make 3 turbine DC-3s, turbine powered. And also we've beefed up the wings. We can carry 2,000 pounds more than the DC-3s ever flew, since it was new. And also we stretched the fuselage. So it's become a real good tool. We land on a grass strip every time we go to Haiti. Out in the middle of the country, there's a grass airstrip, and we land there, and you couldn't do that with some of the modern planes because the nose gears on modern planes are a little more susceptible to damage than a tailwheel airplane like we fly. I'm going to show you a 2-minute video for those who are not sure what MFI does or whatever, instead of me going on and on. This will tell you, it's about 5 years old, so some of the numbers are off. Like it says we fly for 400 mission organizations. We now fly for 600. Haiti is so desolate, we keep getting calls for more missions that need our help. And so watch this video, and that'll kind of brief you what MFI is all about.
Missionary Flights was started in 1964 by our founder, Don Belden. He led Youth for Christ rallies out in the Bahamas, and he also was a private pilot. And when the missionaries saw him, they would start asking him, hey, when you come next time, can you bring this? Can you bring that? And so that was the start of Missionary Flights. They started looking at the Caribbean to find out where was the greatest need of Christian support to bring in supplies and where the greatest number of Christian missionaries were.
So on a practical standpoint, we fly for over 400 missions that live in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and a few that also live in the Bahamas. We partner with them to bring them the things that they need. And that can be in all types of forms of cargo. We fly a lot of missionaries and their personal belongings back and forth. We also fly youth groups and church groups that are going down on short-term missions. One of the other major things that we do is we provide mail for them. There's no way they would be able to get regular, reliable mail using any type of commercially available service.
Our founder's vision was that MFI wouldn't just be a humanitarian organization and help people with their physical needs, but that they would take up a defensive position spiritually on behalf of the Haitian people or the Bahamians or the Dominicans, and to really minister to their physical needs and their spiritual needs.
If you can feed them, if you can meet their medical needs, if you can help them get clean water, they're going to say, hey, these people care about me. Why are they here? What are they all about?
And James in the Bible tells us that faith without works is dead. And so people are showing that their faith is alive by the good works that they're doing. And we fly for a lot of well-drilling organizations and clinics and hospitals and schools and orphanages, and on I could go. And that's the unique way that they're standing in the gap for the people of Haiti or the Dominican Republic.
And so that's what we're all about. We want to help reach these folks for Jesus Christ.
Well, that gives you an idea of what we do in a very short 2-minute video. And we do that all the time. I mean, nothing's much changed. That's why I can use that video today, because the procedure, people have changed and come and gone, but the procedure's the same. And we fly regularly for 600 different missions. A lot of mail and cargo comes through. Every missionary that we fly for, which is under those 600 missions, two things. One, they're affiliated with missionary flights, the mission organizations. And the reasoning for that is two things. One is that we need to know what they're doing doctrinally and spiritually in Haiti. We don't want to get caught up with a cult or an ism or somebody we wouldn't agree with doctrinally that's spreading the word down there. So we ask them what they're doing. They have to be out from under a church. If this church wanted to send a missionary and responsible for that missionary, then you could ask for the affiliation, and we'd ask for your doctrinal statement. We send you ours, and what are we talking about, what are we doing here, and that, or they have to be a 501c3, a non-profit organization. And the reasoning for that is that there are certain things that a 501c3 requires by the government. Leadership, you have to have at least 3 people in leadership. They have to be named, know who they are. The government doesn't care about spiritual things, of course we do, but also they have to file reports and make sure they're on the up and up. And if there's any, they get audited just like you and I might get audited with the IRS. So we have to be careful. So that allows us to, for the missions we fly for, has their own accountability. I'm not accountable for their missionaries as missionary flights. They should be accountable, the leadership in their mission in their church or where it might be. And the second reason for affiliation is because we're not a commercial carrier. A commercial carrier can, you can sell a ticket to you, and you can get on an airliner and fly wherever you want. They have the rights to do that. They fly under different regulations than we do, although a lot of them are similar. We're corporate, and so because of that, then the missions that are joined in with us are part of our corporation, part of us. And they are all 501c3, we're 501c3, and they allow us to share our aircraft and the responsibility to keep those missions going and keep them alive. And so that's kind of why it works. And so when someone comes to us, they can ask for affiliation. We send them our documentation and application, what they're doing, how'd they hear about missionary flights, how can we help them, what's their ministry down there, are they church planters, or are they well drillers, or they're medical, or whatever it might be, so then we know. So that gives you an idea how we determine who we fly for. It's not just anybody that comes in the door. Well, you know, Haiti has been violent since I've been there, and I'm sure since Don and Karen's have been there all those years. There's always something going on in Haiti that's either a natural disaster like the earthquake, or maybe floods and water. You know, they've pretty much hacked off all the trees in Haiti because the reason they do that is because making charcoal. That's how they cook everything, with charcoal. For a while there was propane getting in, and then there's always an embargo coming on or some reason for they can't get the propane, so they go back to hacking down trees. One of the missions in Port-au-Prince we used to send little fingerlings, little trees about this big in boxes, all in little planters, and then they would replant them in a nursery, and when they got so big, they'd give them out to the local areas, and they'd plant them all over the place. It was doing really well. Well, then the embargo in Haiti hit in 1993. Commercial embargo, no in and nothing in, nothing out, completely shut down. They shut us down for about 3 months. Larry and I had to go to Washington, D.C. to get permission to fly in. It took us a while. And so what they do, no propane, no gas, they won't cut the trees down again. And so it's kind of a desperate country. When we fly from Haiti across the border into the Dominican Republic, and usually that's what we do. We'll have so much freight for Haiti, or cargo, or people, and then we fly over to Dominican and with the rest of the load. And you can tell the line when you cross. I mean, there's no comparison. The trees in Dominican are lush and nice, and Haiti has very few. In fact, when you fly in, if they've had severe rains in Haiti for a few days, torrential rains, maybe a hurricane brushed alongside and dumped a lot of water, you can see brown water for about 5 miles out in the ocean as we fly in. Because it's washed off and just in the creek, and so their topsoil's gone. They don't have much way to make money. So Haiti has been a struggling country for so many years, and of course today it still struggles with the violence that's going on and everything that's happening in Haiti. So I want to show you, we have a good relationship with the local news media in our area, the TV stations. They like what we do. And we're always first responders, whether it's a hurricane in the Bahamas that's gone through and we go start flying to support or relief, or Haiti or wherever it is, there's always something in the news about the Caribbean that needs some attention. So they often come up, and sometimes they fly with us the first flight or two to get people in there so that they can report back to South Florida what's going on in the Bahamas or wherever. The people in South Florida, a lot of them have friends in the Bahamas. They go out there fishing, they meet up with families out there. Families in the Bahamas come in for visitation to visit their friends, or maybe even have a house in Florida. So there's a lot of good relationship, and so the TV likes to keep up with all that. What I'm going to show you now, in February, Haiti shut down for 3 months. The Port-au-Prince airport shut down for 3 months. The country shut down for 2 weeks. And then finally we could go back into Cape Haitian, where Don and Karen was, and we could go to the grass strip out in the middle of the country where there's a hospital and a lot of missionaries working out there. Couldn't go to Port-au-Prince for 3 months. And they finally in May opened it up, and now we're getting back into Port-au-Prince. It's somewhat difficult. We had about 40 to 50,000 pounds of cargo waiting in the hangar to go to Port-au-Prince, but we couldn't get there. We have a warehouse there, and now we're starting to fly it in and starting to work. So in May, the TV commercial, the TV news media came up, and they did another 2-minute video on MFI. So I'd like to show that to you just to see how the reporting is going with us and Haiti and our relationship with the news guys.
Right now, flights are able to leave the main airport in Haiti. This is the first time in nearly 3 months flights have been able to fly in or out of the country. Gang violence shut down the airport. Officials say the only safe way to reopen the airport was to bulldoze hundreds of homes nearby. They say gang members were using those homes to shoot into the airport, even hitting parked planes. Only Sunrise Airways, a small regional carrier, resumed flights to the island. Other international flights could start operating again in the next few weeks. The airport opening will allow crucial supplies to get to the island to help people in need. As Caleb Califano reports, one local organization already sent a plane full of supplies this morning.
For nearly 3 months, the supplies you see behind me had nowhere to go here at Missionary Flights International. That's because the airport in Port-au-Prince was shut down. Today, that all changes.
For years, Joe Carabinch, president of Missionary Flights International, routinely took trips to Haiti, bringing much-needed supplies. However, that changed on February 29th, when the unrest in the country made it impossible to fly into the international airport in Port-au-Prince, their main delivery point.
People had stopped shipping stuff here because it wasn't going anywhere.
This week, the airport officially reopened, and earlier this morning, Missionary Flights International had their first cargo flight back to the airport.
It means that they have access now to the needed supplies, the food, the medical supplies, water filtration system, stuff to get down there.
Carabinch tells me he's optimistic for the future now that the supply flow is returning back to normal, and he hopes to continue to make deliveries to the hundreds of organizations they work with.
We were a little skeptical, wondering, hey, are they just, thinking they're going to open? But we did get confirmation, and so we're excited.
Missionary Flights International plans to resume their supply flights to Port-au-Prince every Tuesday and Thursday. In Fort Pierce, Caleb Califano, WPBF 25 News.
That kind of gives you the idea how they respect us and what we do, and it's interesting to get that out to the community. And of course, another thing that helps is that when there are disasters or hurricanes or whatever it might be in the Bahamas, and of course it's big news, hurricanes are different than tornadoes. The tornadoes, you guys just look out the window and it's outside the door sometimes, up here, not much warning. We get warnings. We know it's coming for several days. They show the tracks and it moves a little bit, but we have an idea kind of where it's going to hit. And so usually we fly the airplanes out if it's getting close to Fort Pierce, where we are based. We fly them up to Alabama. We got a spot up there that's a church, and they have a Bible camp that we can keep all of our people there for a few days and fly back in. As soon as we get back, we start flying relief into those places. So because of what the news media does, the churches and the organizations and even Walmart and places like that start hauling stuff into us. Trucks, semis come in, and we have tons of stuff to deliver. And then, of course, a lot of the churches take up offerings. So we don't have to charge anybody anything. The last time we flew to the Bahamas a couple years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, it was right at the COVID time. And when it was all over, we'd flown, 250 people out that was sick and injured. We'd flown tons of cargo and supplies in and work teams to help build churches. And we had about $250,000 left in the funds that people had just simply donated. And so I'm on the board now too, so we decided as a board that we take that $250,000 and rebuild the 4 churches that got blown away out there. And so we took work teams out, and they used the money to buy all the supplies, And so we was able to use the money for that. So it's just, I wish I could have you on the inside of MFI's operation when those things are happening, because it's just amazing how God just opens the windows of heaven and it comes. You know, airplanes are expensive, and flying them's expensive. I don't even know how much per hour. When I was there as president, I figured at least $1,200 an hour to fly the airplane, and fuel's much more expensive now than it was then. And so it's, but the Lord supplies. It's just amazing how it all works out. So, well, MFI's been going 60 years. It's interesting to know that back in 1962 or 3, in our church in Iowa, Don Belden, who founded Missionary Flights, came to our church. He was with Youth for Christ then. I was a teenager, and I kind of knew he was there, but, you know, I didn't focus much on it, and I had my life ahead of me quite a while before I got involved permanently. And so I got to know Don a little bit, and in '64 he founded Missionary Flights, and our church had just started in 1960. And so we was the first missionary group or mission organization we ever took on was Don Belden with Youth for Christ. And here I was right in the middle. Who knew that those many years later that I would be the president of Missionary Flights? I mean, I didn't even know how to fly an airplane or anything close at that time. But God knew. It kind of shows how God plans your life. And I remember when I got saved at 16, I put in my Bible that I wanted to dedicate my life at the same time. But you know, at 16, you don't know already what that means. Does it mean Bible college? Who knows? I just lived my life and was going to get drafted, so I joined the Air Force. So I'm just kind of watching out for number one. But God was watching out for the whole big picture and all the hours of needed of flying and the ratings and so forth. So I'm going to show you a video about Missionary Flights. And I think it's a 60-year anniversary. What's interesting in this video, back in '93, Don Belden and I went to Haiti and did a video. In fact, I think it was a guy that graduated from Moody or is part of Moody. Name was Tom Trento. He called us and said, "I'd like to do a documentary on Haiti." And so we have that video. It's pretty long, so I won't show it today. But our people today, our technicians today in the office, took that video and used excerpts from it. And Don Belden is going to introduce this video to you. He's been dead for about 10 years with the Lord. And at the end, he does the appeal for the people, like when I show it in banquets. So kind of interesting, and I think you'll enjoy seeing what's happening in the last 60 years at Missionary. This is the 60th year in 2024.
60 years ago, a vision took flight. What began with a young boy's dream and a passion for aviation has grown into a lifeline for missionaries across the Caribbean. This is the story of Missionary Flights International, MFI, a testament to faith, commitment, and the power of flight.
Looking back over the years, I'm amazed at how God has brought the light of His gospel into this darkness. What you're about to see is a story of MFI. MFI is a technical mission providing air support to Bible-centered missions.
It all started when a 12-year-old boy from a small Illinois farm town gazed upward in awe as a Chicago-bound DC-3 roared through the sky. In that moment, young Don Belden knew he was destined to fly. Years later, in 1960, Youth for Christ International sought someone to take the message of Jesus Christ to the Caribbean. Don Belden, an evangelist, musician, and pilot, answered the call. Alongside his wife, Jo, Don began the work that would become Missionary Flights International. Belden realized that traditional missionaries in the field needed the support of technical missionaries providing supplies. So in 1964, Don and Jo Belden took on the challenge of using aviation as a tool for mission outreach, founding Missionary Flights International. MFI began providing essential air support to Bible-centered missions throughout the Caribbean using a small plane, the Twin Navion. As word about MFI spread, more requests for services poured in. By the 1970s, MFI had expanded operations to Haiti, addressing even greater needs. MFI became a crucial support system for missionaries, delivering mail, cargo, and even live animals. The purchase of the first DC-3 in 1976 marked a significant milestone, enabling MFI to meet the growing demands of the mission field.
Just like the front troops on the line, missionaries need to be supplied.
Reverend Belden likened the purpose of MFI to the prophet Ezekiel's statement in chapter 22, verse 30. I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap. Constant use in challenging conditions necessitated aircraft upgrades. The transition to PT-6 turboprop engines in 2003 marked another leap forward in MFI's mission. The turbine DC-3 exceeded all expectations. The reduced engine weight allowed each flight to carry more cargo and passengers. Maintenance on the engines was cut in half, and the faster cruising speed shortened each flight by over an hour. Most impressively, the aircraft's dependability continued to bless both MFI and the missions in the West Indies. The DC-3 carries a crew of 3, the captain, the first officer, and a flight attendant ensuring the safety and comfort of passengers. For the first 42 years of its history, MFI crews worked on the outdoor ramp at the West Palm Beach Airport. All MFI owned were its aircraft and a few donated shop trucks. Then in 2006, MFI was able to purchase a large hangar and office complex in Fort Pierce, Florida. This new facility, along with the addition of another turboprop DC-3, significantly enhanced MFI's capacity to serve. Throughout its history, MFI has been guided by dedicated leaders. Don Belden's vision was carried forward by Dick Snook and now by Joe Carabench, each contributing to the mission's enduring impact.
I'm Joe Carabench, a pilot and now the president of Missionary Flights International, which is located in Fort Pierce, Florida.
In 2021, MFI celebrated another major milestone with the construction of the Hospitality Park. This safe haven for missionaries features RV spaces, 4 cottages, and a hospitality center, providing a welcoming space for families, groups, and individuals volunteering at MFI or traveling as missionaries to the Caribbean. Additionally, MFI recently acquired its third DC-3 N300MF, which is nearing the end of its refurbishment and will soon be in service, further expanding MFI's ability to support missions. From cargo logistics to passenger reservations, the team at MFI works tirelessly to support those on the front lines. Today, MFI supports over 600 faith-based missions across Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and the Bahamas. Whether facing hurricanes, earthquakes, or daily needs, MFI is the first to respond, standing in the gap with God's love, bringing hope and aid to those in need.
As missionaries depend on MFI for air support, we depend on friends like you for prayer support. But it takes both prayer and financial support to keep a missionary airline flying. I'd like to welcome you aboard MFI as a member of our flight support team.
As we celebrate 60 years, we look forward to many more. To learn more about how you can support MFI, visit our website at missionaryflights.org. Thank you for being a part of our journey.
Okay, any questions about missionary flights, what we do, why we do it, and how you can get involved? Okay, we must have done a good job of explaining it, huh? That's good. Well, the pastor didn't say how long I had, and I know most churches go to noon, so just sit back and relax. So it's been great to be here with you today, and I think you see a little bit more about what MFI is all about. I don't know if I mentioned or not, but all the missionaries that we fly for use our address in Fort Pierce. They don't have Haiti on their envelopes or packages. It doesn't have Dominican Republic or Bahamas. It has their name. We assign every mission what we call a unit number, which is similar to a box number. We don't call it box number. It might confuse the post office when things come through to them. But we're the biggest receiver of mail in Fort Pierce because as far as the post office is concerned, there must be 1,000 people using that address, and there is. But it all comes to us, and we resort the mail in the boxes appropriately to send down to Haiti and load it. Typically, we'll have 500 to 600 pounds of just first-class mail on the airplane. So we never know what's going to come in the door. They use our address freely because it's our agreement, part of the affiliation. And so sometimes it's a semi-truck with a big, huge medical piece of equipment, or maybe a four-wheeler or a motorcycle or something that needs to go. And then, of course, regular mail, envelopes, and different things. We have a purchasing department. If somebody can't find something in Haiti, which is very typical, or if they can't have somebody send it to them or order it, they need something locally, maybe a tire for a motorcycle or a four-wheeler. They use those to climb up in the mountains and go places. They're quite handy, those four-wheel drive vehicles and so forth. Well, they'll contact us, and we go over and buy them a new tire, put it on the next flight, and it is delivered right to them probably that week. If they order in the first part of the week, it'll be there by Thursday. And it's almost, like someone said, it's almost like an Amazon service for missions, and that's what we do. Well, I want to cover just a little bit of scriptures this morning. In Ezekiel 22:30, it was referred to in the video there, Don used. It said, I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I shall not destroy it. And that's generally where we stop with that verse. But you know what the rest of it says? But I found none. That's the sad part, isn't it? God's looking for people, and sometimes he can't find them because they're not willing to go, or they've got other things they like to do, or they got their own life planned out. And we had that too. We were doing fine the way we were, Linda and I. Our family, we had a good business, we had things going our way, and living more or less the American dream in southern Iowa. We were in the same county where we'd lived all of our life and gone to school, and my dad lived about 5-6 miles away, and my brother closer than that, and my sister across the border into Missouri. So we were in a unique and an ideal situation. But God come in and tapped us on the shoulder and said, it's time to go. It took us 2 or 3 years to kind of figure out that's what we should be doing, because a lot of responsibility in the family. And as a dad, figuring everything out, and of course had to raise your own support, do all that. That's scary sometimes, as well as to us. But when the Lord's in it, that part works too. It comes to fruition. And we knew about 5 little churches in southern Iowa we could contact. And within a year, we were in 50 or 60 churches. The Lord blew open the doors. I started writing letters and making contacts, and they said, yeah, come over and talk to us. And within a year, we raised our support and ended up, of course, then it was West Palm Beach. We served 20 years in West Palm Beach with missionary flights, and then in 2006, we moved the operation to Fort Pierce, and that was we could go on about how the Lord supplied for that, but we'll not do that today. So God seeks for people to serve, and he might be seeking for you. I was almost 40 years old when I went. I had my 40th birthday in West Palm Beach. I was about 39 and a half when I went, 1st of June, 1986. And so it wasn't right out of college or right out of flight school or anything. I was kind of established on my way, I thought. But God used what I knew to challenge me to do what MFI needed. I saw the needs there. I knew they needed pilots. One of the guys was leaving who had been kind of assumed to take over for Don, but he ended up going up to Bob Jones and teaching mission aviation for the next 20 years while I then went there and served with MFI. So God has a plan. So in 64, as we know, we saw here that God established missionary flights. So this is our 60th anniversary this year. And violence in Haiti has been around for a long time. When we were raising our support in January of the year we went, it was the same year the shuttle blew up. And about that time, Don called us, and Haiti had ejected their dictator, Baby Doc Duvalier. And he said, things are really messed down there. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if MFI can keep flying or not. He was, he's kind of painting a dreary picture. He didn't want us to leave everything we had and come down if it all flopped. Well, Haiti didn't flop. It's been trying to flop for the last 38 years we've been there. And he said, no, we're pretty much done with raising our support. We've made the commitment. We've made our announcements to everybody. We're going to come. And if Haiti falls apart, maybe there's someplace else we can fly to. Well, Haiti didn't fall apart completely. And so over the years, that has happened. In fact, I found this letter from Karen Davis. You might know, anybody know Karen Davis? She's here, I think, today. And she wrote this in 2019. She could have written it yesterday. That's how Haiti has been. It's been almost the same over the years, all the struggles. And this is from Karen, written in the fall of 2019. Many don't understand that the economy in Haiti is at a total standstill right now. And what that means, you can't buy food, you can't buy gas, can't get to the doctor, can't get to school. I wish other places understood what the people here are going through because of this unrest. It is totally sad and needs tons of prayers. We are at a point that only the Lord can bring the solution for these hungry, hurting, scared people. And that's the same today. Haiti's had so many struggles. I don't know exactly why. Although when they got their freedom from France 200 and some years ago, they dedicated the country to Satan. Why anybody would ever do that? But they were African people. They come from voodooism and that type of culture, and that's what they did. And it's possible that that's the results of that. Although there's a lot of churches now, and the Lord's brought a lot of those people out of that. Used to, in the first years I went down and spent the night or something, we hear voodoo drums all night within range, very close. You don't hear that so much anymore. The churches that are there are strong. They're doing a good job. The church this size will be packed out, and sometimes there's people looking in the windows because there's no glass on them anyway to hear the gospel. And so that's been the hope of Haiti and the salvation of it at this point. I don't know what the future is going to bring for the country, and no one else does. In Matthew chapter 25, there is some scripture there, and part of it was about the rich young ruler. There's different, how the guy buried his treasure, he gave him money, and he hid his, and the rest of them invested, and theirs grew, and the Lord encouraged them in that proverb. But you go on down in verse 36, this is the sort of the judgment of the nations. Now, I know we're not into that right now in our world or in God's economy. It will be someday. But who makes up nations? People. And I think these verses can be used today to show us what we should be doing to help the nations, other nations, and poor nations like Haiti. And so verse 36 says, "Naked are ye, and ye clothe me." This is Jesus talking to the nations. "I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you sick, or hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When we saw thee a stranger, or took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when shall we saw thee sick, or in prison, and came to thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you've done it to the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me." Don and Karen used to serve a mission called Least of These. When I first met them and knew them, and they would accept a lot of work teams. A pastor in the States was head of the mission. And I always thought that was a good name, Least of These. It's a biblical name. Some of the missions' names aren't biblical, except especially. They are good. There's used to be Withers Baptist Haiti Mission, there's Haiti Independent Baptist Mission, there's all kinds of names of missions, World Vision, Compassion International. Those are nice names, but it's not biblical names. And this says least of these, and you and I are responsible to do this. Sometimes people look at MFI as just humanitarian. We just fly freight and people, and so we must be just doing humanitarian. But like Joe said in the video, once you're there and you start helping these people to get clean water or get a hospital established or whatever, they start saying, I wonder what these people are doing here. They could have stayed in the States where everything's nice and lovely, and yet they're coming to our country. And so then you can get out your Bible and start witnessing to them, bring in the pastors and start sharing the gospel with them. And people start getting saved, and they start doing the real work of missions, is reaching the soul. But sometimes you have to reach the physical part too. I have a video, I'm not going to show it today, but I like it because there's a young guy, he's probably less than 30, and in the video he's got a little scruffy beard, he's got his hat on backwards, and somebody you might see walking down the street here in Wisconsin Rapids, just a common young man. But what he does, he's found a ministry. He takes 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's or Home Depot, just got their logo on the side, and he sends thousands of them into us, and we fly them down to his ministry in Haiti and Dominican Republic. And he has a filtering system he installs in that 5-gallon bucket. And so as long as it's fresh water, even if it's out of a creek or a river or wherever it might be, he dumps that in there, and the water will start trickling out filtered. And so they can put it in their kitchen or house, and they can have filtered water. So he goes around and delivers these to different little villages and cottages and whatever. And while he's there, he explains how it works, and then he'll say, oh, by the way, do you know who Jesus is? And they say, no, I don't know who Jesus is. Let me tell you about Jesus. So he shares the gospel. Sometimes they get saved, sometimes they don't. But a few weeks later, a month or so later, he makes these rounds again because maybe he wants to make sure that they're using the system right, they're cleaning the filter, because if you don't do that, you'll have bad water again. So he goes around, oh, by the way, have you ever thought about accepting Jesus? And after 2 or 3 times, those people start asking questions. That's a pretty simple way, isn't it? He got their attention by a bucket that filters water. And if you've ever been to Haiti, or maybe other countries like that. It's amazing what you'll see. Don and Karen can back this up. The Haitian ladies go to the river every few days, and they take a big bundle of clothes. They take their kids. They go down the banks of the river, and they start washing the clothes. The kids are playing in the water. And before she leaves, she scrubs the kids with some soap and scrubs herself and loads up her. As you fly across the country, you see this across Haiti. They take the clothes and they hang it on bushes along the rivers. And when you fly over, you look down and see this little white bunch of clothes there, and some over here and some over there, and waiting for them to dry, and then they put them back in their basket and they take them back home. But before they do that, they take a 5-gallon bucket and they scoop up 5 gallons of water and take it back, and they cook their beans and rice in that for the evening meal. And it just kind of gags you to hear it and see it. But I've seen it many, many times. That's just typical. So we have groups down there drilling wells and doing these bucket brigades and different things with buckets to help them. So that's what you have to do. And that's what Jesus says in here. The king said, because you did it unto me, you've done to them, you've done it unto me. So when you help a missionary or you help a mission organization and do what you can, the blessings are going to come back to you. And you'll be honored by what you've done. God will honor it. Because he goes on, I didn't put that down here, that what about those who didn't do those? And it wasn't a very nice picture. He encouraged them to do it, they didn't do it. And we have to be careful as a nation that we don't just get involved in war around the world. We send weapons everywhere. We need to send food, and I know we do that. I was in Africa. Our daughter served there with Samaritan's Purse for 2.5 years. And so Lynn and I went over to see what she's doing, and we flew with SP. They have a turbine DC-3 like we do, and I knew the pilots and all that. And so we flew with them for a couple of days out of Nairobi and went up into Sudan, where our daughter had worked, and dropped off supplies. We landed in sandy, grassy, or not grassy, just sandy desert-type strips, scrub brush around, and a little pickup would come out. Interesting, the phrases. We were flying along, and the pilots keyed the mic, and they was talking ahead to where they was going, and they said, bring us 5 cans of Coke. And I thought, well, you know, it is pretty hot up here. Maybe that would really taste good about now. We landed on the ground. They brought out 5 55-gallon drums of fuel. They didn't want anybody in the area to know they had fuel lodged there at the airport. They'd take it up in trucks and so forth. We needed that fuel to get back to where we came from. So little code words like that, you learn a lot over there. Another thing, they were at 13,000 feet, and as we started to cross the border in Sudan, there had been some civil war going on. They shut off all tracking equipment, so no one could track us, and we took a dive bomb down to the runway, landed, minimum time, took off. So sometimes you have to do those things, but while we was there, we landed and spent the night in a place called Lokachogia, which is the northern part of Kenya. And it's a very active base for humanitarian work as far as food and feeding programs. They had tents that were built like Quonset huts that were probably 100 yards long, just lined up side by side. And they backed the airplanes, the C-130 cargo planes, huge military planes, even some Russian airplanes. I don't think it's operated by Russia. And then I kind of went over there to see what was going on, and all the food that was loaded on there were in big, huge bags, so many kilos, and they're double bagged so that because they drop them out of the airplane, they don't land. They just do a flyby and shove them out. And the locals have to watch out, you know, that could be dangerous, but they do it over the airstrip. But every bag had USA written on the side. You know, I had a little pride. I thought, here we are, thousands of miles from USA, and we're feeding thousands of people with that food. And that's what we should be doing, you know, as a country. And I don't know if it helps us spiritually in our country, but it does do what God expects us to do. The least of these is around the world, everywhere. And so there's a lot of them in Haiti. So I appreciate you guys helping MFI and Don and Karen over the years. I know you've been encouraging to them. And even today, we're glad that Don and Donnie are here. I know they can't always make it out physically, but we're glad they're here today and honoring us. Lynn and I being here. Linda worked with me 25 years in the office as I would fly away. I'm not sure, I didn't count up the number of flights, but I have close to 7,000 hours flying back and forth to Haiti, and that's got to be 600 to 700 trips back and forth to Haiti, about 10 hours round trip. And so what a privilege. I guess if I was you know, a little younger, had another 30 years to go, we'd just go back and keep flying the airplanes. I think the airplane's going to last forever. I'm not worried about it. It's me that I'm kind of concerned about, you know, whether I can handle it anymore. But we appreciate, again, all your faithfulness, not only to us and missionary flights, but also other missions that this church supports. You are critical to what they need to do. In the old days when I was raising support, I had some video. Actually, it wasn't videos then, it was slides. And the last slide said there's 3 ways you might be able to help missions, either giving, going, or praying. And certainly we can do one of those, can't we? Some of you have gone. Some of you have been to Haiti with Don and Karen and visited them. Some of you have prayed, and some of you have given. And it takes it all. And if we didn't have people like you and churches around the country, then we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And so thank you for all that you've done, and we pray that the Lord to bless this church and your pastor and everything that's going on. And I'll have him come and pray and close the service. You see, I got done before noon. How about that?
Well, I certainly don't want to add to what you've shared, other than it's one thing to put a spotlight in a bulletin and you get a little bit of information. You take on a missionary support, and then the years go by. I come to the church, 3 years, and I know of the mission history. This is a giving church and so forth. But, learning myself the missionaries that we support, who they are, what they do, the importance and the significance of that, and that our reach for Christ and our impact for Him is bigger than we think it is sometimes. A cold cup of water. I've been to Indonesia. I have good friends that were in Mozambique, and the darkness and the oppression. I mean, we'd say you could cut it with a knife, right? And so the poverty, and it just goes on and on and on. But to give you more time, Dick, to be able to share maybe even a renewed vision, I hope it helps us as a congregation as we think about missions, that we're doing more than we think we are, that the Lord is doing much more with the little that we give to impact people. And just think about that. I mean, we don't even know what that's like to be shut down. I mean, the whole COVID thing, and, we had a nation that kind of freaked out about it. But I mean, imagine if the streets were filled and gunfire and on it goes, and, our children don't have any food, and we don't have any water, we don't have any clean water. And so, we think about missions here in the middle of Wisconsin Rapids, in the middle of Wisconsin, in the middle of the United States. God is always at work, and what we do matters. And so I appreciate the time and your commitment to be here. We want to pray for you. I asked Dale to come up and close in prayer. It's a blessing that you're here. They had vehicle problems in their camper getting up here, and the Lord provided for them to be here. And I get that was incredible effort to follow through with that. So we are very, very thankful. So Dale, would you pray for the Snooks as you continue to travel? God's grace, God's goodness, God's care, His provisions, and His protection always. So Dale, come on.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you that you saw to it from creation to make a way to bring us back to you. We thank you, Lord, that Dick and his wife followed your calling. And for all these decades, Lord, have dedicated themselves to you and serving the people in Haiti and the Bahamas. And now, even though they're retired from being president, that he stays on the board and he stays active and he stays out there presenting what the work you are doing through Missionary Flights International. We pray that you continue to give them good health and good travel. Thank you for the work that they're doing and for the people whose lives they're impacting. And Lord, we know in James 1:5 you say, if we lack wisdom, ask, and you'll give it to us. And Lord, we admit we lack it. Teach us what we should do and help us to know our part and give us a heart of prayer so that we remember the work that you are doing in so many parts of the world, Lord. And especially today we think of Missionary Flights and the work that Dick is representing here today. Bless them, Lord. Give them your encouragement and give them your strength to do the work that you've called them to do so that your name would be lifted on high and that Jesus would be heard by all who's heard. In your name we ask these things, Lord, trusting that you will commit them. Amen.